Hello and welcome to another episode of the To Baldly Go podcast, and thank you for joining me on my mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to baldly go where so many have gone before. My name is Aaron, and I am watching through Star Trek for the first time and discussing my voyage with my Trekkie friends. Last time, we finished the original series, and Nate and I have moved on to Star Trek the Animated Series, a 1970s Saturday morning cartoon for kids. Join us this week as Nate and I discuss the entirety of the animated series. Now let's chart a course that gets us through this as quickly as possible. Warp speed! Yeah, we should just get into it. Now, I was thinking about how we want to discuss this, how we want to discuss the animated series, all 22 episodes. Went in with the anticipation that it would be worth one podcast episode, and I think that proved about right. I thought there were some good moments in it. I thought there were some strong episodes. One in particular, I think I might consider, say, top 15 of episodes we've watched so far without doing a hard calculation and putting it in a place, but just that gut feeling of I'd put it as a top 15 episode between the original series and animated. But after that one, it was pretty much downhill.
So you're clearly talking about more tribbles, more troubles, right? That's it.
Incorrect.
You
Now,
sure?
I didn't hate that episode. I thought that episode was okay.
I actually didn't
Um,
hate that episode either. I thought it was kind of it was clearly trying to play off the whimsicalness of the Trouble with Tribbles and
yep,
be in that same vein. And there were a few moments where it's like, oh, that's kind of funny. And also the overall premise of, well, they don't breed, they just get bigger, but there's more of them
yep,
in there. So they still breed. Oh, it was funny to me.
right. Yeah, I was torn with this because I started out actually rating all of the episodes, and I got up through, I want to say, about 15 episodes that I was rating, and then it was just like, it's just not worth it.
Well,
Um, where I said that the original series I felt was greater than the sum of its parts, when I look at my ratings for the episodes that I did rate, and then I think about how I would rate the series, I think the animated series is less than the sum of its parts. Um, because there were a lot of episodes that I just kind of thought were somewhere between bad and okay. A number that I felt were kind of mediocre. As I'm looking through the ratings I have mostly fours and sixes. But
okay.
I think I would rate the series as a whole as a four. I would say it was bad. Um, Even though if I average out all my ratings that I made, it's going to be higher than that. I wouldn't say it was awful because there were some decent points in it, but yeah, I was struggling with it by the end and very much ready for it to be over.
I was definitely I had given it thought off and on, and obviously you and I had kind of talked about how did we want to rate this if we wanted to rate it individual episodes versus the entire series. And I did not go along and rate the episodes, and I also didn't take any notes for any of them. Because I was watching and I never really got into it at any point, with the exception of even just scenes within particular episodes. I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then the rest of the episode would kind of lose me all
Hmm.
over. I was leaning towards a three. Um, I I could be convinced to say four, but I probably couldn't be convinced to go any higher than that. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't find any of the episodes to be particularly interesting or compelling in any way, with maybe the exception of the very last episode,
Hmm.
which I actually thought was kind of interesting and mostly held my attention for the duration, which is wild because I was also like, let's get this done and never have to go back to it again and just like going through the motions. But I thought it was an interesting concept. And, they did a lot in 20
So,
minutes. So,
it, yeah. So, funny that you say you never want to go back to this. I do foresee a point where we'll have some point of contention or debate or basically make a bet on this podcast. And some of those bets may be like, I bet you the counterclock incident. Like, if you're wrong, you have to go watch that episode.
that's fair. Uh,
Or even bet like if it's a big
what was
one,
it?
it'll
Mud's
be
Passion?
the magics of Megas 2. Um
Oh, that
that
was I'm sorry, but Mud's Passion, by the way, what a terrible goddamn episode. But then again, I've never liked any of the Harvey Mudd episodes.
yeah.
Like, they're just bad.
Yeah,
So,
I yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, I did take some notes. Most of my notes were if something caught my ear as I was watching or saw something that was interesting in the moment, I would jot something down or I'd just write down just a quick note after um the episode. I think over the entire animated series, I took about 6 pages of notes,
yep,
including my kind of thoughts at the end. Um, Now, I was pleasantly surprised by the first episode, Beyond the Farthest Star.
yep,
It felt like a Star Trek episode.
I did.
I
I
I
believe
honestly
that.
thought I honestly thought the pacing was really good. I thought the pacing was good. I thought it had good tension and that the story was easily contained in a 24-minute episode. Um, it was very much had the feel of a Saturday morning cartoon, which is exactly what it was. It was a Saturday morning cartoon for kids. It felt like Star Trek Scooby-Doo, without them ripping a mask off at the end and saying, "Oh, those
They
kids."
all might have been high the entire time. So,
That's yeah. But it was a good little Star Trek adventure. I thought it was really a good use of the medium, and they were able to tell a story that in the original series they could have drawn out to 51 minutes and would have been about 26 minutes too long.
yep.
Um, so I was very pleasantly surprised by the first episode, and it gave me hope for the original series that we were going to be, or the animated series, sorry, that we were going to be looking at something that was maybe going to be just an overall pleasant surprise. Um, I did write down that my prediction for the animated series, and I wrote this down a couple times in the first couple of episodes, was basically that uh, something I believe I've said before when we were discussing the original series was that I had this assumption that the show had to be about more than spaceships and aliens to have any kind of staying power. If it
Yep.
was just about spaceships and aliens, it would not. There might be good episodes, there might be great episodes, but overall, it would lose its luster.
Mhm.
And so my prediction after watching the first episode was that there would be a lot more spaceships and aliens episodes in the animated series.
Yep.
And that's pretty much exactly what I think happened.
Hmm.
I mean, they were very constrained in the original series by budgetary constraints and just reality, uh, and the ability for special effects and all of that, that all of the aliens had to be humanoid pretty
Yep.
much. They had to be things they could actually make a TV show out of. When you're animated, that is almost
Easy.
completely out the window.
Yep.
Um, so I do feel though that they went very much with the spaceships and aliens approach, and there was less. There was still points of philosophy, points of like decent storytelling, or at least attempts at decent storytelling that just kind of failed. I think they just fell flat, or uh, I'm also not the target demographic.
I
So,
was gonna say, I mean, it is a
but
children's,
at
right?
the same
So,
time, it's a children's show, so the magics of Megas 2, what the hell?
all right.
I mean, how was that for kids?
Yeah.
But that's getting a little ahead here. But yeah, I just had that prediction that that was the route it was going to go because they were able to do more stuff like that, and I think they did. And honestly, it felt like it was less about the characters, less about the people, and more about the scene, more about the time. And I think it overall suffered for that.
Sure. I agree. I mean, so I really, and they did capitalize to a certain extent, but I really was looking forward to something that could, shed the constraints of modern, at the time, modern special effects and makeup and
Hmm.
all that. And it was cool to see, obviously Chekov is not in it, despite the fact that Walter Koenig wrote one of the episodes. Um,
Which, fun
so-
point of trivia, he was the first Star Trek actor to write a Star Trek
oh,
story.
I didn't know that.
Hmm.
But then you replace him with a non-humanoid alien, and that's
Hmm.
kind of cool. Um, Voiced by, any guesses? James
James
Doohan.
Doohan.
Yeah, because James Doohan voices everyone. In fact, there were really only three voice actors in this entire show, one could argue. James Doohan, Nichelle Nichols, Majel Barrett did all the voices, like all of them, which
Hmm.
is hilarious.
Yeah,
Um,
there were a couple where I was just like, that sounds like Chapel.
yeah. Well, Lieutenant Moress, the
Hmm.
cat lady, Majel
Hmm.
Barrett.
Yep.
And then I know that there were a few aliens that Nichelle Nichols did in addition to doing Uhura. Um, and she did Dr. Sarah April from the last episode.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's a
Now,
few.
another kind of fun trivia point, we've probably discussed this before, but Robert April
Mhm.
was the original name they had for the character that became Pike
Yep.
and then became basically Kirk.
Yeah. And so you finally
Robert
see
April was the initial name of the Enterprise captain in their first kind of attempt at getting the show made.
so it's very cool to find out that, in that episode that he was the first captain of the Enterprise,
Yeah.
after it was constructed and all that. Um, so, kind of cool to see that and get some of that history of the show. And honestly, I didn't mind that episode. So
Hmm.
it sounds like you hated it,
I
but
just kind of nothinged it. Or what one?
the
The final
counterclockwise,
episode.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really anything that episode. I found by the end I was reaching for my phone a lot more and looking at just whatever on my phone instead of actually sitting back and watching the episode. I found myself getting very bored with most of them.
It,
Uh, or it would end like there were a couple times the episode ended and I was just like, hold on, what just happened? I rewound it, like I backed up 3, 4 minutes, and even then, those 3 or 4 minutes could not captivate my attention watching them again.
I I really my brain has been stuck on I call it the Benjamin Button effect to a certain extent
Hmm.
of like the aging backwards, or the society moving backwards, that your children go from being old, too young, and like, and even now I can't like articulate it. Like my brain is just stuck on how that could possibly
Hmm.
work. And I think that's part of my fascination for that episode is trying to comprehend a universe where that happens versus, time as we perceive it. And I don't know. And that could be what kind of captured it for me. That being said, when I look at it on IMDb, it is the number 4 rated episode of the entire series,
Of the animated series?
the
Yeah.
animated series. Yeah. So
Now,
I'm not alone in that, apparently.
yeah. So would you say that that one, the Clockwork Incident, is your favorite episode of
No,
it?
my
Or
favorite was the
Clockwork
one I
Incident,
forgot about.
Counterclock Incident, sorry.
My favorite is the one that I forgot about until I saw it on the list again, which was Yesteryear.
Yep. That I think is a top 15 episode at
Fantastic
least,
episode.
maybe better. I thought that episode was I thought that episode was great. I gave it an 8. I almost gave it a 9. I thought it was so good.
8.1 on IMDb.
Yeah. So watching that episode, I was pleasantly surprised by Beyond the Farthest Star. And
Mhm.
then watching Yesteryear, I was like, holy shit, this show might be great.
Yep.
And then
And
I was set up for
welcome.
massive disappointment. But I thought that episode was fantastic.
Yep.
Um Now I thought it was such an interesting just concept that I couldn't even tell you what necessarily caused it, but whatever time portal, they come back and everyone's just like, who the hell is this? And just nobody knows who Spock is. And then I swear, did they take from that episode and include it in the reboot movie? The episode of Spock get or the scene of Spock getting bullied. And
They may have
I
actually.
because
That's a great point.
it seemed very familiar.
That might be a
Um,
really, really deep cut that they brought into the Star Trek reboot of the flashbacks of Spock being a child and being in that school where they all sit in the little pits and he gets bullied and knocked down and kicked
yeah.
around. That's a I hadn't thought about that, but
Now, just that one scene just seemed
yeah,
very reminiscent.
you're very spot on with that, I think.
But yeah, I thought that episode was great.
Yep.
Yeah, easily the best episode of the animated series.
Nothing was
Uh,
from that point on.
and
So
yeah, it's just too bad that it was in the second episode, which, looking at some trivia, apparently was the first episode aired in certain areas for some reason. Um, I'll try to I'll try to see if I can find that. But yeah, when the animated series premiered on September 8th, 1973, stations in Southern California ran a different first episode than seen in the rest of the country. They showed Yesteryear because George Takei was running for local political office, and stations were afraid that running an episode that had Sulu in it would require them to give equal time to his opponents under the fairness doctrine
hmm,
by the FCC. So they ran Yesteryear because Sulu was not in it.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you catch who
So
all
for
sang?
them, it was downhill from there.
Yeah, I mean, starting high and just falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
Did you catch who wrote Yesteryear?
No.
DC Fontana.
Hmm.
So point of contention, right, throughout the original series
Mm-hmm.
of whether or not we actually like her
Yeah.
episodes. And here's one that we liked a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I thought, oh, that was such a good episode. Just the pacing of it was great. It really, I thought they told the story very well in 23, 24 minutes, however long it was, and it didn't feel like anything was necessarily missing, and it didn't feel too rushed or anything like that. yeah, then after that it was just it
Just a bunch of
they
dumb episodes.
there were some weird ones. Like I don't even remember everything that happened in these, but just making little notes. Um, in the Lorelei signal, my note was so they went to Castle Anthrax from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I mean, it was just like weird weird stuff. And then that one I wrote down a question of so they were using the transporter to reverse the effects of aging because the transporter effectively stored their being or their essence in memory for a time, but would that reset their neurons too? So if they were brought back and de-aged by using the transporter, would they remember anything that had happened?
Great point. Because what happens to,
Because if you go back to exactly what that was, if you reboot and upload wherever you were,
well, and even take a look at a different episode. We're going to go back to the counterclock incident because we can't
mm-hmm,
get away from it. What happens as they get younger and younger and younger? They
mm-hmm,
forget how to do things,
mm-hmm,
right? That those experiences go away because they technically have never happened. So,
yeah, yeah, um, yeah, it was there, yeah. There was there
more
were
trivial.
good points. There were good points in some of these episodes. I thought that episode was bad. It had an interesting finish, but overall I thought the episode is just really not good. Um, but again, just kind of these funny little notes of like picturing Castle Anthrax from Monty Python.
Huh?
Uh, I felt like one of our planets is missing was a bit reminiscent of the motion picture,
Mhm.
which we watched. And then some that started some of the episodes like we saw in the original series. Episodes started strong, finished weak, or vice versa, and having a solid episode start to finish was the exception, not the rule for the animated series, I felt.
Yep.
Um,
It's almost like there's a reason why it didn't get past 6 episodes in
r- right.
5 episodes
Um,
it ended up being.
now here's a question for you.
Yep.
Is the animated series canon?
Well, that's a point of debate, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's why I brought
Uh,
it up.
I was actually just reading a piece of trivia that said that Gene Roddenberry has said that it wasn't canon.
Yep.
Uh,
But a lot of the writers and people who worked on the show are just like, no, it absolutely is.
and I will tell you, there will be references that will come back to this show in later series.
Yeah. My feeling in watching it is that yeah, sure, it
I don't know
is.
why it wouldn't be,
Yeah.
right? So,
Well, you've got the same guy that wrote The Trouble with Tribbles writing the Tribbles episode here.
mhm.
You've got the carryover of some characters, but then I know a lot of the novels that have come out, the books or whatever, those are not considered canon,
Yeah,
but
and that's a big difference between like the Star Trek universe and like the Star Wars universe,
mhm,
because the Star Trek universe for the novels was Wild Wild West. So,
mhm,
like they were licensing the characters and things like that, but it was go do whatever you want kind of thing.
mhm,
Whereas Star Wars pre-Disney acquisition, like George Lucas was still approving all the storylines.
mhm.
Those were considered canon until Disney bought them and kind of went, no more. Like none
Because
of
we're
that.
gonna have all our own new books come
Yeah, because
out.
we're going to invent a whole bunch of new stories and make money off of that. And maybe we'll borrow some stuff from the books, and they
and
have.
we'll
But
remarket those as Star Wars Legends.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah. So my feeling is that is it a great series? Absolutely not. But does it carry on the continuity? Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I thought they were able to do some cool things in it that they weren't necessarily able to do just because of the medium and what was available at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and even then, I saw a piece of trivia. One of the first notes I wrote down was life support belts.
Yeah.
In the first episode, they had that, and
Huh?
that was a production thing where they were just like, it's going to be a pain in the ass to draw these spacesuits every single time.
Yep. Those
So
weird
we're going
halos.
to do a life support belt with a button and a halo. And I thought that was great. That was a great use of the medium that they couldn't really do in the original series.
Oh, here's an interesting piece of trivia. The events of the series are said to take place during 2269 to 2270, the final 2 years of the Enterprise's 5-year mission. Had the series continued, a series finale would have shown the Enterprise crew completing the mission and returning home to Earth, with the Enterprise beginning its overdue refit that would be completed on screen in Star Trek the Motion Picture in 1979.
Hmm.
That would have been actually kind of cool to see, like
Hmm.
that connection into what happens with the movies.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Hmm. Oh, James Doohan, how many characters do you think he voiced in the series?
I mean, a lot. I already looked at kind of the credits. I didn't
Okay.
count them up, but it's eight-ish.
51.
Oh, well, that's all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of why I would lean towards it being canon, not that I'm an authority on it, but just in my opinion of why I I I would have to hear a pretty compelling argument for it not to count, considering it's the same voice actors, or it's Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley, all of them. Um, but they had so many of the writers from the original series were back.
Right.
The David Gerald, who wrote Trouble with Tribbles, he wrote 2 episodes for it. I mean, you
Mhm.
have Walter Koenig come in and Koenig,
I'm- I don't.
whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, Chekov wrote an episode,
Yep.
and but yeah, there were some episodes in there that were just like, how is this a kid's show? Um, I know that the one I keep going to, and I would have to say this was the worst episode of the series, was the Magics of Megas 2. Uh,
I
it was so weird.
I don't know if I
And
agree
then
that that's the worst episode, but
it jumped into the Salem witch trials, and then Kirk was basically defending the devil. It was just so bizarre, and there were some decent moments, um, but it was just so weird. And I gave that one a 4 when I rated it, but I could have easily gone down to a 3. Um, yeah, I thought that was the worst episode
that was a
of the series.
really bad episode. I'm not gonna argue that point. It was just weird and dumb and like, okay, this is what we're doing. I still think, frankly, Mud's Passion was worse. And again, maybe it's because I just don't like Mud as a character. It just doesn't, even as a, I can have an appreciation for a good antagonist, right? That, drives his story in an interesting direction. But I don't think he's a particularly good antagonist. And everyone always seems to just be stupid around him. And so it's
Yeah,
another episode where, you see Chapel and she's just stupid around him. Like, and
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think there's a character that despite the prevailing, culture at the time, managed to be a very strong female character, right?
Hmm.
When she appeared. I mean, she obviously wasn't in every episode of the original series. There were some weird ones in there where, maybe she wasn't as strong as a character, but overall, like, she was a very, very strong character. And I think they really did her dirty in this episode, and that bugged me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I don't think my headcanon of who she is as a character wouldn't have fallen for any of that stupidity, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. Now, one of the things I forgot about until I was reading the trivia more, and I think this is one of the things that really bugged me and took me out of the show a lot, was how disjointed the dialogue felt, right?
Mm.
When you watch the original series, there's this camaraderie, there's a flow to all the dialogue, especially between the three main characters, right? You get the
Hmm.
humor, you get the seriousness, you get the how they kind of play off of each other, how it just kind of works and they overlap in just the right ways. And in this one, I throughout the series, I was like, the charm is gone, number one, by and large,
Hmm.
between the three main characters. And also just the dialogue felt so disjointed and disconnected. And
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that until I actually read the trivia for this, where it says that the cast recorded the first three episodes together at the same time. And
Mm.
after that, for the entire run of the series, they would just show up at the studio whenever they had time and they recorded all of their lines solo and it was all
Yep.
edited together afterwards, which I think
Yeah.
is pretty typical to
And
how they do animated shows now.
right.
But the editing of stitching that together was so bad.
Yeah. And bringing it up like that, I wonder if that was fairly new. I mean, I
I
guess I
wonder.
don't know how prevalent cartoons like that were.
Mhm.
And then it being that different impact of them recording individually because they weren't there bouncing off of one another. And
Mhm.
then I guess it would make sense that at least if they did that for the first three, that two of the first three episodes were two of the best in the series, in my opinion.
It is interesting too because it says that reportedly DeForest Kelly was not fond of the solo recording method, and had he known that the series was going to be like this, he wouldn't have done it. And maybe that's an extra data point that says that was unusual at the time, or he had just never done an animated show before and didn't realize that's how it worked. I don't
Hmm.
know, but I mean, I know I remember reading articles about um when they were doing Lower Decks. So the one of the two current animated Star Trek shows,
Hmm.
and at least one of the seasons was recorded during the pandemic.
Hmm.
One of the main characters was talking about how he was literally recording his lines on a laptop in the closet of a hotel room
Hmm.
because it's the only way that he could, he had to do it by himself. It was the only way that he could do it without all the echo and like have quality that was good enough to make it into the show.
Hmm.
Um, but it was not unusual. Like I don't think any of them, even outside the pandemic, was recording their lines together. They were going into a sound studio, they were reading through a script, doing it and going. And I even think,
But I think a lot of times too, what I've heard with voice acting is they'll have people do like, okay, give it to me this way,
yep,
give it to me another way. So they do a number of takes of each of the lines, so then they have something to pick from. But if you're taking stage and TV actors who are not young and growing up with this kind of voice acting,
yep.
it's gonna be something different. And I had not thought of it in those terms, but that you mention it, it makes complete sense that that's just there is a disconnect there, that it did feel like something was lacking. And I think I had a few notes like that. Um that that there was just something that was just missing from it. I couldn't put my finger on what it was. Maybe it was that interaction, that interplay that they had that was missing. But yeah, there was just something that was just missing from it. It was like the series had some great potential that was left unrealized. Um, it felt like Star Trek for a lot of it. I I was thinking more about this, and I feel like a lot of the animated series is what non fans of Star Trek think Star Trek is.
Can I make a really controversial statement?
Yeah.
It's gonna, I agree with you.
How
And
is
I'm
that
gonna,
controversial?
because what I'm about to say is going to be controversial. Because it's going to piss off probably a large portion of whatever fan base we have at this point. Um, I think Star Trek the Animated Series is what the Star Wars movies are in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Well,
Go
some
on.
action, some characters that we know and love, not a lot of depth. And this is why I've always been more Star Trek than Star Wars, right? Is because the and I'm separating the movies from the TV shows because I think a lot of the Star Wars TV shows are great. Like the storylines and the things that they explore within the show is because they have more flexibility to do that are fantastic by and large. There are a few misses in there, but by and large.
Hmm.
But if you look at the movies, um, even the original trilogy, which they're not bad movies, but they're popcorn flicks, right? They're not deep. There isn't a whole lot of philosophical messaging that goes into them. It's not zero, right? There's something in there, but
There are a lot of spaceships and aliens.
spaceships and aliens, right? And so that kind of goes to your point that, the animated series is what people think of Star Trek. Okay, right, because they're expecting something that looks like Star Wars or more of the popcorn flick type sci-fi movies. Um, all flash, no depth,
It
right?
it the a thought I keep coming back to is every on the whole, the animated series felt like the Gorn fight from Arena.
Yeah, there you
No,
go.
I liked the Arena episode,
Yeah,
but
it's a cool story,
but
but yeah, it's the
but like if somebody who has
the
not ever
execution.
watched Star Trek thinks about Star Trek, they picture something like the Gorn fight because it
Mhm.
had everything. It
Yep.
had the just absurd overacting fight sequence and just this weird ass alien and Kirk fighting it in some desert mountain planet. And and I'm not talking about any of the other stuff from that episode, but just that fight. That's really what a lot of the animated series felt like. And that's fine for one or two episodes, but it kind of going back to my initial theory before I even started this as to what gave Star Trek the staying power that it has to this point at least is that there has I came in with the assumption that there has to be more to it than just spaceships and aliens. And
Mhm.
I think that's the terminology I'm going to keep using whenever something just doesn't seem to work. And it's probably going to be because there's not much depth beyond that. And
Now,
that's where I had that thought of like, there's not that much staying power in that, though there can be some good episodes. There can be some good storytelling with only those elements because
and,
sometimes a fun adventure is all you need.
and I think to a certain extent, some of that is because, you know, it was aimed at kids.
Yep.
And I think at that time, there was this thought that you can't mix those two concepts. You can't
Hmm.
mix a super complex, thoughtful, philosophical message with children's entertainment, like those two things are standalone. They're mutually
Right.
exclusive. And so if we're going to do this, we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I now come from a world or a generation where not only can that happen, it happens on a regular basis and has provided us with lots of great entertainment that we can enjoy as adults and see the bigger message and all of that, but our children also enjoy because it's a children's TV show, movie, whatever it is, right?
Right.
Like there's some very talented people in this world that have managed to intermingle the two
Mm-hmm.
and make it something that's interesting and something that kids can grow into, right? As they get older and they rewatch and they go back and watch some of the rewatch and go back and watch stuff. Let's be completely redundant. As they
Mm-hmm.
watch these things, then they start to pick up on those additional messages
Right.
and they understand more, right? I think that's
So
cool.
what I'm hearing is that you want to revisit this entire animated series so we can start to pick up on those deeper lessons that were contained.
No, I'm saying that in this period in time when the show is made, they didn't do that. So no, I
Now,
don't want to revisit any of
I
this.
don't entirely agree because I think there were some episodes. Now they didn't do such a good job that I can recall all of what they were,
Okay.
but there were some episodes that seemed to have a very strong message to it.
I am
Um,
going to contradict myself right now, and I realize I am
but
because I'm also remembering a data point of about yesteryear, specifically that episode.
mhm,
DC Fontana wrote that as a way of helping children cope with the loss of a pet. And so I
hmm,
guess that is a deeper philosophical meaning.
yeah,
Um, I'm so I'll revise my statement to say not that it doesn't exist, it
no,
exists
it
far less
it
far
it
lower extent.
it happened in the series, but it was definitely the exception, not the rule. And
Right.
my overwhelming feeling watching it was when they did it, it just didn't work. That was kind of the feeling I kept coming back to is just that when they did try to do those things, they fell flat or were just off.
Yeah.
Um, and they had stuff like I go back to like there were some things, the Magics of Megas too. It's like how in the hell was that for kids? I also
Well,
didn't
here,
like Mud's Passion. I disliked it enough that I don't really recall much from it, but I did my last note on that was bad episode. Seems largely inappropriate for kids.
so here's the funny part too. Again, as I kind of scroll through the mountain of trivia, Gene Roddenberry was absolutely livid that they had to strip out so many of the darker elements
Hmm.
because it was a children's show, and somehow those made it through.
Yeah,
This like this if Gene Roddenberry had had his way, this show might have looked vastly different, maybe better. I don't know.
yeah,
That we can debate that, but it could have been very different had he had his way.
yeah. Now, I after I stopped, so I basically took notes ish through the first 16 through the first season.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, there were some it was kind of after a while all the notes were kind of the same. Mediocre, bad, okay. Was where most of them fell. But then when I was just watching season 2, uh I was pleasantly surprised by the albatross episode. Now, I
Yeah.
again I watched 9 episodes the last to wrap up the series. I highly recommend not doing that
Yep.
because they all kind of run together at that point. So maybe I'm not giving the animated series its due. Um,
But I
but
spread them out a lot
had
further.
had it captivated my attention better throughout, had they been anywhere near the first 2 episodes, I would have.
I only
So,
watch two or three at a time
yeah.
generally. So I don't think that's the reason, right? I don't think you would feel differently had
Yep.
you watched them in smaller chunks.
I was saying I'd probably feel differently if they were better, and would have been able to break it into smaller chunks. But I reached the point where I was like, I need to get this done before we talk. And I knocked out 9 episodes in one day, and that was pretty rough.
I
But
was so excited when
the
I was like, I'm on episode 4 of season 2. I have so far to go, and then remembered that there is only 6 episodes. It's
well,
like, oh my God, I'm so close.
speaking of, episode 4 of season 2 is the one that I really I thought it was a fairly enjoyable episode.
That
Um
was
and
bad.
and the banter at the end of it was just it felt like a final scene from the original series of them on the bridge, and uh, like just it starts with Kirk saying, "Gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get back to Starbase." Scotty, "Yes, sir." McCoy, "And I'm ready to get back to some of that monotonous old routine sickbay work." And Spock, "Including, I would hope, some of that monotonous old dispensing of the regular vitamin rations to the crew." And McCoy says, "Well, what's that supposed to mean?" And Spock, "Well, you have been derelict in your duties of late, Doctor." McCoy, "Spock, you know as well as I do what we've all just been through." And Spock, "Hippocrates would not have approved of lame excuses, Doctor." I That
Yeah,
made me laugh out loud. I
that's
was like,
fair.
that is
But that's
great.
like the only time in the entire show that
Right.
they have like an interaction like that.
Which is
Um,
why I had already stopped taking notes at that point. I was just like, let's just get through this. And that I was like, okay, I got to make a note of that because that was good. Um Oh yeah, that was the one where they're the plague, and
um,
McCoy was being uh on trial for basically killing a generation of people.
so did you realize that this was the first Star Trek series to win an Emmy?
I think I had seen that it
So the
had won an
entire run of
Emmy.
the original series, they don't win an Emmy, and this one wins Outstanding Entertainment for a Children's Series,
Mm-hmm.
which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh, It also says that through both seasons, the animated series faced the reverse situation of the original series with regard to its popularity. Ratings were high, but skewed away from the young children, which Saturday morning advertisers were trying to reach, being more popular with adults and older children.
Hmm.
So they missed their target market entirely,
Yeah.
which probably contributed to its cancellation because if their advertisers are like, yeah, we're not hitting our target market. We're not going to give you money anymore.
Right.
Doesn't matter how good your ratings are.
Right.
Um, it's interesting. So
Yeah. So yeah, there were more just yeah, it was just glad glad it's over. And we can move on. But yeah, there were still decent moments. There were some episodes like the Territon incident, where made me wonder if 'cause that was when they moved the city of like the miniature city, right?
yeah, yep.
And then I just said I wonder if the Terratons on Verdanus will ever come up again, because it was another situation of like, hey, we're doing this thing, we're affecting this entire group of people.
We're just gonna do it.
Good news, and just gone.
Bye. See you later.
Now, at least this time they seem to be on board with it, and not like, oh, hey, yeah, we've just sentenced all of you to death. Bye.
It it does make me think, not specifically this episode, but of a later episode in Lower Decks when we get there way down the road that references back to an original series episode that is super funny to me.
Hmm.
It became even funnier when I rewatched the original series episode and remembered how the two tie together and kind of goes to that exact theme that you're talking about. And I won't spoil it any further than that, but we'll just say that the humor in the writing of Lower Decks fits really well with some of the critiques that we have and will continue to have throughout the series in the other series. So
Yeah.
it's very self-deprecating, which you would expect out of the guy that created Rick and Morty, right? I
Right.
mean, doesn't take
Right.
anything super seriously, but also can write a pretty decent story.
Yeah. Uh, just a few other fun lines that I thought, like, just I think what the animated series comes down to for me is there were moments that were good. There were moments that felt like Star Trek.
Yep.
There were moments where the characters were able to shine or where they just seemed like the characters.
Mhm.
Um in in which one? In the Jihad episode, the last episode of season one, uh, somebody says, "We'll all die here," and Spock, just a statistical probability.
Yeah.
She says, "You ever
That
quote anything besides statistics, Vulcan?" He says, "Yes, but philosophy and poetry are not appropriate here." Just that was just perfect Spock.
yeah,
Um, so
I'll give
things
you
like that just I jotted down those notes where but but again it's like I just I feel like on the whole it was less than the sum of its parts. Like where again the original series I felt like there were plenty of stinker episodes, plenty of great episodes too, but when I think of it on the whole, I think of it better than if I just take the average of all my ratings. And my overall sentiment on the animated series is generally to that it's worse than most of my ratings if they're averaged out.
sure.
So, yeah, we talked about like if we think it's canon, yeah, why not? We both agreed on the best episode, and we both disliked both of our respective worst episodes.
Yep.
Let's go through a little bit of the quiz here
All
and
right. I'm
see
gonna
what we actually picked up.
can't wait.
Okay. In the ambergris element,
Uh,
ambergris element, what is the method which turns air breathers into water breathers?
I don't remember. Like I have a vague recollection, but I couldn't tell you.
Sergo op.
Yeah,
I
forget
don't know.
that. I was
Yep.
never gonna do that.
And then it makes me think like, man, I may consider myself a Trekkie now, but damn, if these people could like go in and actually answer some of these questions, I don't know if I'll ever be at that level. But still, what is the name of the Enterprise shuttlecraft used in Slaver Weapon?
I'm guessing it's not Galileo.
Correct.
So I'm gonna guess a different astronomer and say Copernicus.
You got it.
Wow, that was almost a complete random guess.
Yeah.
I think I
I
vaguely remember seeing it written on the side of the shuttle, and I just rolled with it.
I'm impressed. I had no
I,
idea.
that could have been just dumb luck. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
On what planet is Dr. McCoy arrested for mass murder in
Oh
Albatross?
my God, I just watched this too. And
Huh? Huh?
I think it's on this monitor if I looked at it, and so I'm trying not to. Um, I don't know.
Dramia 2?
Yes, that sounds about right. I mean,
Okay.
obviously it's in the book, right? So
In Practical Joker, what does Scotty receive from a food machine instead of the sandwich he orders?
no idea.
Fruit.
Oh yeah, he'd hate that. I mean, if it's not Scotch, then
On what planet would you find a swooper?
Megas too.
Nope. Villy.
Yeah, no
Pylos,
clue.
sorry. Gave away the answer to the next one. Huh. Um, Phylos. So we'll go in the Lorelei signal. What female crew member takes control of the Enterprise?
Hurrah. I actually
Mhm.
liked that about that episode.
Yep. Lucian refers to Spock as his elfin friend in what animated episode?
Chekov make us too.
Mm-hmm.
That one at least is easy.
What is the name of the Klingon battle cruiser in More Tribbles, More Troubles?
Couldn't remember.
Divisor. And in which episode are people encountered who are born old?
The counterclock incident.
Yep.
Hey, I got a few of
Yeah,
these.
you did. I was I
Thanks.
was I was impressed with the shuttlecraft Copernicus.
That might be a fluke. Let's
I
not
had I had no clue.
give us too much credit here. Like,
I'm I can it makes me think from our conversations with Abby and just through the original series, there are so many of these details that I am still just completely missing. That's kind of funny to me, like these different shuttlecrafts or anything like that. I have no idea if they come up
but
again.
but
And
here's the thing. This is the shit that I nerd out on.
that's
The
true.
the ships and the classes and what we see when and that's I mean 6 feet that way. I have an entire bookcase that's literally just Star Trek models.
Yep.
So maybe I'll give myself a little more credit for getting that right because it's the stuff that I like. Oh, which one is that? And it drives Katie nuts when and we watched like different like the new Star Trek stuff and like oh what ship is that? Oh, we haven't seen that. And she's like, just shut up and watch the show. Like I don't care about any of this. Like, no, this is the stuff that I really like. Like
Yeah.
so
No, and I think that's all fun stuff. But yeah, just hearing some of the things where it's just like I understand now the some of the distinctions they have with the uniforms and things like that,
yeah.
where at the same time it took me quite a while to kind of come to that, but I don't feel like I feel like a lot of those things were just revealed over time. They
Mhm.
weren't they weren't ever explicitly stated. You just kind of pieced it together. As I was doing some reading on some other stuff, I saw there was basically a Star Trek like writers and directors guide that was written by probably Gene Roddenberry, explaining a lot of the things that I had questions about, like the what are the different warp speeds and how are
Mhm.
those and how do those
Very
scale,
detailed. Like
incredibly detailed, and talking about the way time works and measurements and how they do things, and all of these different things that are kind of like, okay, how is all this done? And it was all stuff that was just like, here's the baseline. When you write an episode, factor all of this stuff in, but I don't feel like most of it was explicitly stated. But unless a lot of Trekkies have gone out and read those items or materials, they just come out over the course of time, which I think is kind of cool.
mhm.
And I think a lot of people haven't watched the original series just once. They've seen it
This
dozens
is
of times.
probably at least my fourth
Yeah.
complete watch through. And then there are many episodes of the original series that I've seen many times.
Yep. And even as I watched through it, there are some episodes I watched three times. And it was funny then when we still discussed them that there was so much that I still missed.
Yeah.
But now that I've got that better base, I'd probably pick up on a lot more of it going
And
back and see things like, oh yeah, that makes sense now.
And this is where I'm really excited to get into then the next generation because that's a show that I've easily watched six, seven, 8 times through easily,
Yeah.
probably. And I know I'm going to catch more stuff that I didn't
Hmm.
catch before because this time I'm actually going to be sitting and like analyzing and really paying attention, and that's going to be approaching it from a different, kind of
Hmm.
viewpoint. I just need to throw something on that I can kind of pay attention to, or I just need something mindless that I'm going to pay attention to, but it's mindless and I don't need to think that hard about it, kind of thing. Um, and then just to see, I really can't wait just to see how you feel about it versus the original series and the
Mm-hmm.
animated series, of course, but really the original series, and kind of see where that takes your Trekkiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good show. Yeah, it is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to that. I mean, yeah.
It's funny, you sent me that video and I forgot to respond, but you'd sent me the video of the Blues Traveler, someone listening to Hook for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of, so a couple weeks ago we were texting and you were giving me shit about DS9 and how Abby baits me. Fine. I will admit that 100% happened. I'm not even going to argue that point. But it sent me that, for whatever reason, I had some spare time, so it sent me down a rabbit hole of, like, I was watching different clips of DS9 that are like seen as like the best, even just the best scene, or the,
Mm-hmm.
best scenes across the entire seven season run of the show. Which then, of course, YouTube serving up algorithms, right? And then took me into like next gen
Mm-hmm.
on the best scenes, the best episodes, the best monologues throughout the seven season run. And it was very timely considering that we're almost there, right? We've got a
Mm-hmm.
couple of movies to get through, but then we're into it, and it's like, holy crap, just the difference. Um, the original series has some great philosophical messages and does some really cool and interesting things interspersed with the spaceships and aliens and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think that's good, then Next Generation is going to blow your mind, because
Awesome.
it's a different level of philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's and some really bad episodes in there. Like, I'm not even going to argue that there will be episodes that will make you question whether or not you like Star Trek anymore, because you can't, not everything can be right.
Right.
And we're going to get to one pretty early on.
Yeah.
Maybe two. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I'm not going to spoil anything, um, but then it's completely kind of like we talked about the first season of the original series, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of really, really good episodes with a few stinkers in them. That's almost the entire run of Next Gen. Is a
Hmm.
bunch of really good episodes with some really bad ones kind of interspersed in there every once in a while.
Hmm.
And really bad ones are really bad. But it's completely countered by how great some of the other episodes are.
Hmm.
And if you look, don't look because it'll spoil everything, but
Yeah.
there's so many like lists of, what are the best Star Trek episodes of all time. And if you look at any of those lists, it's probably pretty evenly split between next gen episodes and DS9 episodes, with, a couple of original series, a couple of Voyager, maybe a Discovery or a Picard or something in there, kind of filling in the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's next gen and DS9
Hmm.
dominant. And it really depends on the list whether it's evenly split, it's more one or the other, but
Mm-hmm.
it's those two.
Hmm.
And so I think we're really getting into the core of
Yeah. And
what
and
the
this is what I've been really looking forward to getting to. Um, yeah, I've just really been looking forward to getting to it. Not that I've tried to look past the original series. I'll be honest, I was basically looking past the animated series, which is why we gave it basically an hour of discussion. Um,
I
but
think it's important to watch and discuss it though,
I've wanted to get though to next gen really, because that's where eh, all the Trekkies I grew up with grew up on next gen. I mean,
yep.
it started out when we were kids too young to watch, but ended when we were old enough to appreciate at least a little bit.
I watched the
Um,
series finale.
yeah.
Like, I remember highly anticipating the end of the last two seasons. I was old enough to have watched and mostly understood. Because I also remember the series premiere of DS9 and
Mm.
watching that being completely captivated. And there's a 2 season overlap
Hmm.
here. But I to this day remember watching the series finale of Next Gen.
Hmm.
So, and I think it's what's interesting to me is too is the pilot, the series premiere of Next Gen. If I think through all the different series premieres across all the different shows, it's probably the best one.
Hmm.
It might be better than DS9. I think it's better than Voyager. It's, I mean, it's really good. Like it kind of sets the stage.
Yeah.
So
I'm really excited to get to it. Yeah, just yeah, talking ahead of what we'll be kind of planning out the next couple weeks. We'll do the search for Spock next week, and then Star Trek 4 the week after, and then Next Gen after that. And then I think we had sort of discussed if we do, because I know it starts with a two-parter.
yep.
Now, are we just going to do the 2 episodes and say that's good for our start? Kind of instead of the 3 that we'd been doing with the original series? I mean, do we want to start
Yeah.
with 2 and then see if we want to switch it up to 3 after that? Because I'm sure this is going to open up a whole new thing just in
When you
those
say
2 opening
two,
episodes.
technically the series premiere is 2 episodes. Are you
That's
saying
that's what I'm saying. So the series premiere is a two-parter, so that would be the
first
one
episode?
at the 2 episodes
Yep. And
we would
then we do
watch, parts
one
1 and 2.
classified as 3 and 4
What?
uh,
Yeah.
for the next episode. So that's Naked Now and God, I'm blanking on it because I know exactly what it is. Code of Honor.
Hmm.
So that would be and I'm cool with that. Like I think there's enough to talk about.
So,
We can change it up, right? If it
well,
doesn't work, we can go back to 3.
and that's a bit of what I was saying. Just do we want to just do 2 for the first podcast of Next Gen, or do we want to do just do 3 or start the series doing 2 at a time and kind of what we did for the original series. My inclination, without having watched any of it yet, would be do the 2-part series premiere as one podcast.
Yep.
Then I'm sure that's going to just blow up conversation I won't be participating in.
Well,
And
you're reading
then,
my mind too, because I think we'll have a lot to talk about. I
yeah,
think you will have a lot to contribute. Like I realize that Abby and I are gonna go like way out. Like it's just gonna be a thing, right?
it, yeah,
But
I
but
think it's great.
I think you're going to like uh, I mean I obviously I don't want to give away a lot, but you also kind of know some of this stuff
Right.
already.
I don't live in a
I think
vacuum.
you're gonna have a lot to contribute as you kind of compare and contrast this cast, these characters to the original series
True.
because they're not the same, right? Nor should
Right.
they be. So I think for sure we could cover the pilot as one episode.
Hmm.
Um, I'm willing to bet, kind of looking through the next chunk of them. I guess I mean I have mixed feelings because on the one hand, like I think we could totally fill episodes 2 at a time.
Hmm.
Quite a lot to talk about. The flip side to that is we move, a third
Slower.
slow,
Yep.
right? Which means is that much longer before we get to things like DS9
Right.
or Voyager, or Enterprise
Well,
and that
then
kind of thing.
maybe we end up looking at doing the series premiere, the two-parter
Yep.
as one, and then go back to doing 3. And then if we're talking for an hour and a half and we only get through 2 episodes, well, then we let that kind of dictate for the time being,
I'm good
which
with that.
is kind of how we did it with the original series. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, that's totally fine by me. Um,
My buddy Greg wants to join us for some of the next gen stuff too.
okay.
So yeah, He's
Works
he's
for me.
he's been listening to the episodes we've posted, said they're pretty good. He's liking
Okay.
them.
Well,
So,
that's good. At least he likes them.
yeah.
One fan.
Yeah. Hey, we've got 28 downloads now.
Perfect. I know
Yeah.
Katie um subscribed on Audible, I
Oh, that's
think.
awesome.
I don't think she's actually listened to anything yet, but she did go through and find it and subscribe to it. So
Nice. Love it.
um yeah, let's plan on that. I
Yeah.
mean,
I figure kind of what we've had so far is that we kind of let the discussion kind of just
yeah,
in a
dictate.
way dictates or directs itself. And I think we'll have a good feel for it. And if we've got plenty to talk about, I mean, part of why we switched to 3 episodes instead of two is because so many of our conversations were just rehashing
Yep.
because so many of the original series episodes were like, oh, we've seen this before.
And I never felt like we got to that point or that it gets to that point in next gen. I think they find ways for 7 seasons. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a good run to do some pretty unique episodes and kind of keep the storylines going. They
right.
also had more flexibility in that there is more, I think, more opportunity for reruns and stuff like that. So they could do more callbacks to other
Hmm.
episodes and kind of continue storylines, even though it's not an overarching story like we kind of see now.
Right.
Uh, you can still kind of, you know, leave a loose thread and then a season or two down the road, pick up that thread and go, and it made sense, right?
Yep. Which
So,
shows just the changes in television and storytelling over that time and just growing the medium, I
mm,
would think. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to the movies and doing those and getting just jumping into it. I'm really excited, especially having listened to Patrick Stewart's book few a month or couple months ago. Really looking forward to just getting all into it.
there's just some great episodes, and I'm actually really happy that as I look through the list, there's great episodes across all the seasons. So
Hmm.
like the amazing ones we don't have to wait a ton of time for.
Yeah.
This makes me super happy. So
Yeah. And then it'll be, I mean, we've still got quite a while before we reach that point, but then we'll have to think through how, because I know my initial thoughts on when there's overlap between series,
yep.
and how we want to do that. Because my initial thought was, yeah, just watch them. If then it was an episode of DS9 on Monday, okay, watch that. And then Next
Mhm.
Gen on Wednesday. Okay, then we watch Next Gen. I still need to finish up that spreadsheet to break down the actual order, like
We have
air date
time or
order. What?
we have time to figure that out.
Oh
Like
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be another year plus before
where
we
does
reach that.
where does Star Trek 5 fit into the next gen airing? Do you have that? Or do you still
Uh yeah,
we
let
could
me
probably
find it
figure it
here.
out just as easily with this cool new technology. It's called Google.
Yeah. Let's go to the Google machine. Um yeah, so I've scoped out through season 3 of Next Gen. Looks like okay, hang on. Star Trek 5 came out. So Next Gen had season 2, episode 18 on May 20th, 89.
Okay.
June 9th, 89 was Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier. And then June
Oh, wait.
17th was the next gen episode, Manhunt.
So most
So
of the way through season two, then this man.
most of the way through season 2. So when it comes to watching the movies, I think those are going to be pretty easy. Where it'll
Yeah,
be a difference is when it comes to the series and how those go.
and
Um,
that's I think the biggest problem is going to be the overlap between next gen and DS9 because
mhm.
of those 2 full seasons of overlap where they were airing concurrently.
Yep.
you get later into DS9, Voyager's first season was only a half season. I think it was
Okay.
like 13 episodes. So that was like a spring premiere type thing, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. I know it's shorter. And so we only have a partial season there. That's an overlap, and then one more overlap for the last season of DS9, second season of Voyager. And then after that, there really isn't any overlap at all,
Yeah.
because Enterprise is standalone, and then there's a gigantic break, where we'll go through the J.J. Abrams movies, and then you get into, New Trek, Discovery, and all that. But they never aired those overlapping. They did one
Right.
after, like they queued them up, but it was go through a season, wait a couple weeks, pick up the next show,
Yep.
air the whole season. Or I think there were some breaks in there too, but it doesn't really matter. There was never any overlap.
Yeah. So just looking here at some of the dates for next gen and DS9. So we would in theory get to season 6 episode 11, which is Chain of Command part 2 of next gen. And then
Oh,
we would have 4 episodes of uh 4 episodes of DS9 before Ship in a Bottle, but then we would be Captive Pursuit of DS9 on January 31st, 93, and then Aquiel February 1st, 93 in next gen. So then there's some of that overlap
okay.
there
But it's not
for
terrible.
for a portion of it.
There's only 26 episodes in season 6 of Next Gen.
Yeah.
So if DS9 is starting after episode 11, which is what Chain of Command Part 2 is, then that's not too bad.
Well, and then DS9 season 1 goes, it would be ending of season 6 of next gen, and then there would be 3 more episodes of DS9 for season 1. Um, so
Interesting.
I mean, we'll see. I'll get that breakdown a bit more later. I do like the idea of just catching the movies as they come out
Yep.
in there, and I've totally included Galaxy Quest in there as well, which came out on Christmas '99.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Why not?
because I I love that movie. It's so good. Um, so yeah, just kind of
Yep.
catching those little one-off episodes, which or one-off things by having a movie. Yeah, even then there were just breaks when those were out. So it's not like maybe it will reach a point where we've got a movie that came out the day after an episode aired, but yeah, I think we'll get it figured out. But yeah, I mean that was my initial vision for it, but I don't know how practical that will be and if it will take away from our discussions by jumping around so much. But maybe we give it a try and see what we think, or just say like finish this season of maybe we just finish next gen and then jump into DS9, but
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
see.
yeah, we have a long ways before we have to make
Oh
that.
yeah. It's
Um, Next Gen is so self-contained that it probably doesn't matter for continuity purposes. I think, you raise an interesting point, because by the time we get to DS9, we're not going to want to intersperse the Voyager episodes in there, because DS9 is basically a 7 season story.
yeah. Well, let's
Um,
see with Voyager. So Voyager was said season one, 16 episodes. Okay.
yep,
And
it's
that
really
crossed over with what season of DS9?
6.
So season 6 and 7 crossover. No.
No,
Voyager, no.
did I do that wrong? Is it 5 or 7? What direction am I wrong?
It's 5. Hang on. Jesus. So Voyager start you couldn't have been more wrong.
Oh, I suck then. How badly did I do this?
Oh, we're about to find out.
Drop the
Um,
knowledge on
what?
drop the knowledge on me. Tell me how wrong I am.
All right, the last episode of DS9 to air before an episode of Voyager.
Mm-hmm.
Season 3, episode 12.
Nuh-uh.
Yep.
There was
Season
that
3,
much
episode
overlap?
12, Past Tense Part 2, January 9th, 1995. Voyager, Season 1, Episode 1, Caretaker, Parts 1 and 2, January 16th, 1995.
What? I have no recollection of
So
this.
there is crossover for
Most of it.
what, four? Let's see,
What the hell?
for 5 seasons of Voyager.
That aired on Jan 16.
Oh yeah, this would be tough.
No,
Season
we're not going to
7
do this.
Season 7, Episode 3 of
Please.
DS9 aired on the same date as Season 5, Episode 1 of Voyager. So yeah,
We're
there
not
are a
doing it.
lot of
We're gonna F with
DS
ourselves.
DS9 and Voyager were airing in the final season of DS9 were airing on the same day most of the time.
Yeah, no, thank you. There's so much continuity in DS9 that's important. I don't think we're gonna be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2 seasons of overlap. That's crazy.
Yeah, five
It's been
five
so many
seasons.
years now.
Huh?
It's been so many years now. But that makes okay, that makes sense in other contexts.
But
Because I
again, then
remember reading something about some of the storylines that they were developing for Voyager. They started in Next Gen, and I was like, how are they thinking that far ahead? Because it was so many years down the road.
nope.
Well, it really wasn't. It was only a couple of years.
Well,
Um,
let's see.
and with it.
Voyager, uh, probably getting way ahead of myself here, but Voyager, season 1, episode 1. Let's see. Next Gen finale. And I'm doing this at least on Paramount Plus, so I'm seeing titles and thumbnails. I'm not seeing ratings like on IMDb.
Well, and I'm looking at Wikipedia too, so that seems to jive. So January 16th.
It looks like the 1994. Yeah, so basically the first half of the end of the fall 94 season is not in Voyager. So Voyager started in January of 95.
That's crazy.
Next Gen ended May 23rd, 94.
That is crazy.
But yeah, so then
I'm
the
gonna
the
screw that one up.
question is, what episode do we watch first? The Voyager or the DS9? Because they were airing on the same night.
Oh my God. I have no recollection of this. I really don't. But my God, what did I see the other day I mean, well, it's easy to look at. January 16th, 95. So the first episode of Voyager aired 29 years ago.
Yeah,
Couple. So I mean, there's a lot that I've probably forgotten in 29 years.
yeah.
Uh,
So I don't know. When we get there, we'll see how we want to proceed with it, and
yep.
if it's worth trying that with what, like I said, my initial vision for it was. But then again, I say my initial vision got completely fucked up in watching The Cage. So
That's fair.
and then we watched 2 of the movies during the original series. So
That's so
I
fair.
I don't care that much, but
Yep.
still kind of a fun thought experiment or fun experiment
Yep.
to do. I did not realize how much overlap there was though. Um, so I'm still gonna finish, I think, compiling my list. I've got 181 episodes list or 180 episodes listed out so far, plus
Yep.
or plus the movies in the timeline, and then just sorting them by date. Um, but yeah,
All right.
so
Well, should Should we call tonight a half an hour earlier than we normally do at
Yeah,
8?
sure. I think we kind of this will be a shorter episode, but that's
Yep.
fine. Well, there you go. If I'm completely honest, I am really glad to be done with the animated series. That was rough. It started out so promising. I was truly pleasantly surprised by Beyond the Farthest Star, and I still think Yesteryear was among the best episodes we have seen to date. But man, after episode 2, it went downhill. To be honest, at this point, there are many episodes of the animated series that I don't recall all that well. I was so disinterested in much of the series that I hardly took notes and didn't even rate many of the episodes. While the original series was a pleasant surprise and generally less of a chore than I anticipated, the animated series was exactly the chore I anticipated. Before I gave Star Trek any level of thought, this is kind of what I expected it to be. It was only after I thought more about it, when I considered watching it, that I came to the conclusion there must be more to it than just spaceships and aliens. And there is, for the original series. If you were to take someone who was like me 3 years ago, having never watched Star Trek, but with cultural awareness of the series, and show them an episode like The City on the Edge of Forever, and virtually any episode from the animated series, I'd imagine City on the Edge of Forever would surprise them. The animated series episode, pretty much any of them, wouldn't. And why? Because the animated series seems to have fallen into the spaceships and aliens trap. And given the animated medium versus the production of the original series, they could do a lot more with that than they were able when filming live action. Since it was a lot of spaceships and aliens, the series suffered. It seems like they fell back on, well, we can have some new crazy looking aliens in whatever episode, and story became a bit of an afterthought. And what stories they did have, I'm looking at you, Magics of Megas 2, were weird as hell. I suppose my comment up above isn't entirely fair then. The fact that there's a Star Trek episode in which Kirk is in Salem, Massachusetts during the Salem witch trials, acting as advocate for the actual devil, I guess that one did surprise me. Regardless, that episode was terrible. Earlier this week, Abby and I started watching Jurassic World Rebirth. We couldn't finish it. So what was it about that movie that didn't work, when Jurassic Park is one of the greatest movies of all time? Jurassic Park was about more than just dinosaurs. The dinosaurs were the setting. Jurassic World Rebirth felt like it was just about the dinosaurs on steroids. There was no substance. I didn't care about any of the characters, not a single one. Not even the family that got brought to the island when they were rescued by the crew. The characters were a means to exhibit the dinosaurs. In Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs were the means of revealing the characters. Dr. Grant moving from hating kids to risking his life to protect them. Lex going from helpless child to playing an integral part in getting the security systems running again. The dinosaurs were the threat that drew these traits out of the characters. In Rebirth, it felt like the characters were just there to be attacked and showcase different dinosaurs. The quests the characters were on seemed forced and didn't really matter. Mutant dinosaurs or spaceships and aliens. A story needs more than that, at least for me, most of the time. Maybe it's that I was in the process of working on this episode when we watched that movie, but I found myself thinking, this sucked for the same reason the animated series sucked. Jurassic World Rebirth was a caricature of Jurassic Park. Much of the animated series felt like a caricature of Star Trek, with some notable exceptions. Seriously, Yesteryear was an awesome episode. But then I look back at my bookshelf, and I see Star Trek Log 8. Much like how James Blish adapted the original series into a set of 12 short story anthologies, Alan Dean Foster adapted animated series episodes into books. It sounds like the first bunch of the books included about 3 episodes in each, and I'm not sure when it shifted, but by Log 8, I have a 183-page adaptation of the animated series episode, The Eye of the Beholder. So maybe I'm wrong, and there's more story there than I thought. Oh no. Am I talking myself into revisiting the animated series? I don't think I can do that quite yet. Maybe someday I'll revisit at least some of the episodes. I mean, if Nate disliked it as much as I did, I don't feel like I must have missed that much. But 183 pages for a 23-minute animated episode? Maybe. I went back to check my notes and rating for that episode, and I rated it a 4. Bad. And had one note on it. Quote, not keeping my attention, but not so bad, I have strong opinions. That's a ringing endorsement. On that note, I think it's about time to call it. Thank you again for joining us on this journey through the universe of Star Trek as I, and even seasoned Trekkies, experience some of the franchise for the first time. As always, if you enjoy what we're doing, please share this with a friend and leave us a rating and a review on your favorite podcast app. We're approaching 200 total downloads now, which might not be much for 30 episodes, but it's not nothing. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're watching along, next time, Abby, Nate, and I will discuss Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Then we have one more movie, and we'll kick off the next generation. I can hardly wait. Outside of the podcast, you can find us on X at Baldly Go Podcast and To Baldly Go Podcast on Facebook. You can find me at aaronemery.net. For Nate, this is Aaron, reminding you to never give up, never surrender. Yeah, I was struggling with it by the end and very much ready for it to be over.